In this video, I'm going to show you how to hack the original style Nintendo Wii using the ModMii installer. The Nintendo Wii is one of the most awesome homebrew-enabled systems that you could possibly own, even in 2024. The system has been hacked for most of its life and is easily accessible considering the amount it's sold, and it just does so much even in 2024 that it is worth modding yours if you haven't done so already. With numerous options available to do that, I am going to show you how to use ModMii to get your unmodded Wii homebrew enabled so you can take advantage of everything it has to offer. If you have an older modded Wii and wish to update all of your mods on it, ModMii can also be used to accomplish that. So let's go ahead and dive in. So as we begin, there are a few things we're going to need, the first of which being an original style Nintendo Wii. So again, this is not useful for the Wii Mini. It needs to be the original style Wii, either with or without GameCube compatibility, doesn't matter. Then you're going to need an SD card. I'm using a 4 gig for today's demo just because I don't need a lot of space, but you can use SD cards up to 512 gigs on a Wii with no problem if they're formatted into FAT32. Even though the system itself only says it supports 32 gig SDXC cards, but regardless, you'll need a way to read those SD cards on a computer. And we're also going to set up a USB hard drive, so I have a 1 terabyte Western Digital passport here. And then you are also going to need a Windows computer. So if you don't have one, you will need to use a VM or borrow somebody's. And you don't need an N64 transfer pack, don't worry about that. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and make sure the Wii is on the latest system menu before beginning. Alright, so got this Wii powered on. This is a new to me Wii that I bought from my buddy Bronson over at the Retro Game Vault in American Fork, Utah. So it has nothing installed on it in the ways of homebrew or anything like that, so we're just going to make sure this thing's fully updated once again. So heading over to the Wii settings, and up here in the top right corner we can see this one is fully up to date. It is on version 4.3U. If you are not on 4.3, just go ahead and make sure that your Wii is connected to your internet, and then perform a Wii system update. But once you're sure you're on the latest system menu, just go ahead and turn the Wii off. We are done with it for the time being, and we're going to get other stuff set up and downloaded. So first, we're going to get our SD card formatted into FAT32 so it will work for our homebrew purposes. So get your SD card hooked up to your computer. Again, I'm using a 4 gig one for today's demo, but you can use sizes up to 512 gigs as long as they're formatted into FAT32. So if you're using an SD card that is 32 gigabytes and under in Windows, you could format this just by simply right-clicking on it, Format, choose FAT32, and then under allocation unit size, choose 32 kilobytes, and then start the format. Now, if you have an SD card that is larger than 32 gigabytes, you are going to need to partition off a 32 gigabyte segment initially for the initial exploit, and then you could format it fully after you get everything initially installed. So to demo the partitioning, I have my 1.5 terabyte SD card inserted into here. I'm not going to use this on my Wii. It's way too much for a Wii for an SD card, but just want to show the demo process here. So you can see it's 1.39 terabytes of available space, but under Windows 10 11, just right click on the start menu, disk management. Scroll down until you find your removable disk, and we're going to delete the volume. And once you see that it is all unallocated right here, we're going to right click, new simple volume, next, and we're going to choose just like 2 gigabytes or 4 gigabytes. So like, for example, 4096. We're going to assign it a letter. We're going to make it FAT32. Allocation unit size, we're going to make that 32K. Doesn't need a volume label. And then perform quick format. There we go. Finish. Done. So there we go, there's a nice 4 gigabyte partition of FAT32 that we can use to do the initial exploit. And again, once you are done doing all of the initial exploits that this video is going to show you, you just come in here, delete the volume, create a new simple volume, make it its full size available, and you can format it to whatever you want to begin with because you can't choose FAT32 through Windows by default. I'm going to show you how to do a proper FAT32 format here in just 1 second. So you can just format it into whatever you want real quick. And there we go. Now, if you are using an SD card that is over 32 gigabytes, Windows will not let you format it into FAT32, so you need to download the FAT32 format tool from Ridge Corp Consultants just by clicking on the picture here. And then when you open it, you can select your storage device, so make sure you are selecting your SD card and not any of your other drives, otherwise you will delete all your crap. So double check to make sure you have the right thing selected. You have been warned. If you delete your own crap, well, sucks to be you, I guess. Pay attention next time? Question mark? Anyway, so select the drive that you need to format. So for me, it is F. And again, you want to have default allocation size set to 32. And then make sure you don't have any Windows File Explorer windows open, otherwise you might get an error. So just make sure all those are closed before you press start. And when the formatting is done, just click on close. Either way, that leaves us with an SD card that is now formatted into FAT32 for use on the Wii. Now, as for our USB hard drives, again, I'm using a 1 terabyte Western Digital here. But they could be an NTFS format or FAT32 for the greatest compatibility with Homebrew and USB loaders. It's great to use FAT32. The only downside to this is that you will need to split game files that are over 4 gigabytes. NTFS can also be used, but the Wii cannot load Homebrew from an NTFS drive, and GameCube games cannot be run from an NTFS drive. So again, for the greatest compatibility, we'll want to use FAT32. So to get our USB hard drives or flash drives into FAT32, we are again going to be using the FAT32 format tool. So make sure to select your correct drive letter. So again, double check this so you don't delete all your crap. And allocation needs to be 32768. And once that's set, just go ahead and start the format. And once the format is complete, this drive is ready to go. Now, if for whatever reason you go through the entire process, get your games added to this drive, and they won't launch within USB Loader GX, you may need to come in and format the drive again. It happens, it's a thing. And if it still doesn't work with 32K, you could try changing it up to 64K and see if that helps you out. So you would just select 64 and then do the format again, and that might also help you get your drives working. It might also be worth checking to make sure that your drive is using an MBR boot record. This shouldn't be too much of an issue for drives under 2 terabytes, but it could still be worth checking in case you accidentally formatted it into GPT on initialization or something like that. But if you go into the hardware, select your drive, properties, volumes, click on populate, click on volumes again, click on populate again. It will show you your partition style, and this is set to MBR, and that's what you want to see here. If yours says GPT, right-click, go into Disk Management, find your USB hard drive, and if you right-click under the disk here, you can see a Convert to MBR disk if it was GPT. So again, needs to be MBR for the Wii. So now we are going to download the ModMii installer. So link to this page will be in the description below for you to grab it. So it's only available in English, unfortunately. So for anyone in different languages, you're just going to have to make do as best you can. But the download is available in 2 versions. There is an installer version or a portable version. I prefer portable. I don't like installing things to my system if I don't need to. And this is kind of a one and done program for me. So portable will do just fine. So with that zip file downloaded, just going to go ahead and get it extracted with 7-zip to its own little ModMii folder here. Perfect. Going to open it up. And now launch modmii.exe. Alright, here we go. So when you first open up ModMii, you're going to be greeted with a whole lot of information here to read through, talking about how this is a free program, and if you paid for it, you were scammed, and that you use it at your own risk. As always, modding your consoles can present a risk, so you always continue accordingly, again, at your own risk. So once you've read through this, just type I space agree and press enter. On the next page, you're going to be greeted by a ton of options once again. So for modding your Wii, we're going to just press W and press enter. On this page, you'll be asked if this is your first time soft modding your Wii or if you would like to update all of your existing soft mods. Type Y and press enter. Now on this menu, we're going to input our system menu version. So again, we updated to 4.3, So we're just going to type 4.3 and press enter. If you are on an older system version, you can type that one in here and continue accordingly. Next, enter the region for your system, whether you're in US, Euro, Japan, or Korea. So I am on U, so that's what I'm going to type. So put in your system region that showed up in that corner of the Wii settings menu. Now we're going to choose the exploit we would like to use to soft mod our Wii. STR2 hacks or Wii brand. We're going to be using Wii brand because we don't want to rely on the Wii's Wi-Fi connection, and honestly, I hate dealing with anything that involves networking, so this video is going to show you Wii brand, so type in W. Now we need to enter in the MAC address for our Nintendo Wii. So go ahead and get it turned back on. Now head into the Wii settings page. Wii settings. Go over to the next page under Internet. Console information, and it will list your MAC address right here. So now just get this typed into the ModMii installer. And you don't need to input any dashes or semicolons or spaces, so it should look just like this when completed, and press enter when completed. Now on this next page, it's going to ask you if you would like to download the active iOSs. So if you are for sure certain that your Wii has never been modded, you could press N for no. But to be on the safe side, just press Y for yes. It'll take a little bit longer to download them, but it ensures that everything is up to date. Now on this screen, go ahead and type 4.3, and it'll ask you if you'd like to download the following channels. So photo, internet, me, shopping. So you could choose between doing all of these or some of these. The internet channel isn't on my Wii, so I kind of want to have it just for old time's sake. So you could do all, some, none. Go ahead and choose what you would like to do here. I'm just going to go ahead and do all to make sure they're all up to date. Now you can decide if you want to install a new theme on your Wii. I don't want to. I want the same old boring system menu at the moment, but you can choose an option here for that. Now it's going to ask if you would like to install a USB loader. Yes, we do. We're going to press Y for this one, and we're going to choose number 1 for USB loader GX. Now it's going to ask us where we'd like to put USB loaders. So if you have a bigger USB hard drive, you can save it there. If you want to keep everything on the SD card, you can keep it there. It detects games on either drive. It doesn't matter where the games are stored. This is just for the files themselves. I'm going to go ahead and choose USB, but for simplicity, you'd probably like to choose SD. Finally, you'll be greeted by a confirmation page. So just go over your settings and make sure you have everything correct. And once you're certain everything is correct, go ahead and press Y and press enter. Now this screen is going to ask you where you want to store the files that are going to be copied to the SD card. So go ahead and type D and press enter. And now we're going to be asked the same for USB. So again, just type D and press enter. Now on this next screen, we're going to be greeted with our download queue. So type in Y and this will begin the downloading process, as well as generate a written guide that you can follow along with to begin hacking your Wii. So a web page will pop up with the written instructions that you will need to follow to begin hacking your Wii. So if you don't want to follow along with this video, you can just read this guide from here on out and you'll be all set. And once you hear the wonderful jingle that your downloads have completed, just go ahead and press E and enter to exit the guide. And you'll notice that you got some nice new little icons here to help you get stuff added into your drives for game backups. So from here, go ahead and get your SD card inserted into your computer. We're going to start here. So there's my SD card. So we're going to open up the copy to SD folder. And we're going to move everything from inside here to the SD card. So just bear with it while it does its transfer. I'm using a slow SD card, so this is going to take me a minute. But one of the nice things is that it will have your ModMii wizard guide in HTML format stored within this copy to SD folder. So if you accidentally close out of yours, it will always be available right here to open up and follow along with once again. Alright, and once you have everything in the copy to SD card folder copied onto your SD card, go ahead and close it out. And we're going to go ahead and take that out and replace it with our USB hard drive. Alright, so here's my USB hard drive. So we're just going to go into that copy to USB folder and copy everything from in here to there. There we go. From here, go ahead and power down your Nintendo Wii so you can insert the SD card without issues. And then go ahead and plug in your USB drive as well. So plug it into the port that is the bottom port. If the Wii were laying flat, this would be the bottom port. There we go. and then turn it on. With the Wii booted up, head into the Wii message board and go to the previous date. And you should see a nice little green envelope with a pink bomb on it. Now, if for whatever reason you don't see this green letter with a pink bomb on it, make sure that your date is set correctly in the system settings. So just go ahead and select this, and this will trigger a Wii exploit. And if you get any errors during this process, just go ahead and hold down the power button on your Wii until it turns off, turn it on, and try it again. After the exploit successfully triggers, you'll see this software must not be sold, neither alone nor as part of a bundle screen. And after 30 seconds, you will see a press 1 to continue button. If you're using a GameCube controller, you could press A on that as well to continue. So just press 1. On this screen, go ahead and press A to continue. Now navigate up to install the Homebrew channel and press A. Install Homebrew channel now. Press A for yes, continue. And the Homebrew channel will install, and once it says success, press A to continue. Now from here, navigate down to the BootMii menu and press A. Now navigate to install BootMii as iOS and press A. Press A on yes, continue. And now press yes to continue again. And once the success pops up, press A to continue. Now, once that's done, if you are on an older version of the Nintendo Wii, you should see a install BootMii as boot 2 option. If that option is listed for you, go ahead and select it now and run through the same procedure, as it does add a level of brick protection to your Nintendo Wii. Mine does not have that option available, so I'm just going to return to the main menu. And then from here, press exit. And this brings us into the Homebrew channel, where we will now begin to install other things to fully mod our Nintendo Wii. But before we begin that process, we're going to create a NAND backup just to be safe, so that way if anything happens, we can restore our Wii. So press the home button and launch into BootMii. Now, unfortunately in BootMii, none of the physical buttons on your controllers are going to work, and instead you're going to have to use the front buttons on your Nintendo Wii itself to do stuff. So power equals move your cursor, and reset equals select. So press your power button until you get to this gear menu, and then press reset. And now press reset again to create a NAND backup of your Wii to the SD card. And now just wait for it to do its thing. And after the NAND dump finishes, it will verify the backup, so just wait for it to do its thing on that as well. And after the verification has succeeded, go ahead and press any of the buttons on the front panel of your Wii. So I'm just going to press reset here. Now from here, again, just press the power button until you get to the back arrow. Press reset. Now head to the Homebrew channel entry by pressing power, and then press reset to boot back into the Homebrew menu. Now we're ready to continue with installation of our mods. So the first thing we're going to do is go down to the Priiloader installer and load it by pressing A and then A again. And then just wait for the initiation here. Once initialization has completed, go ahead and press plus on a Wiimote or A on a GameCube controller to install or update Priiloader. And once installation has finished, go ahead and press A to exit back to the loader. Now from here, go down to the Priiloader launcher and press A, and load it. So now you can navigate Priiloader with various methods using either controllers, a keyboard, or the front buttons on the Wii itself, just like with BootMii. But what we're interested in now is going down to System Menu Hacks. So select this, press A, and we're going to enable some things. So we're going to block disk updates and online updates. These really aren't as important as they used to be since Nintendo doesn't update the Wii anymore. But if you want to not have to press A at the health screen when the system boots on, you can just enable this one as well, or you can enable it with the animation that plays when you return to the Wii system menu. If you want to be able to move the disk channel on the Wii system menu, you could do so by enabling this one. If you plan on using Wi-Fi with your disks, you can enable this so they automatically patch to work with the service. 480p graphics fix for the system menu, definitely recommend enabling that one. If you want to be able to copy all of your saves off of the Wii, you can disable copy protection on the few that are copy protected. Turn on region-free everything, so that way you can play your imports. Scroll down until you see remove deflicker, enable that one. And you can enable any of the other ones that I haven't enabled if you know what they do. These are just the ones I like to turn on and the ones that are recommended by ModMii. So press A on save settings when completed, and then press B to back out. But once this is done, we'll go ahead and boot back into the Homebrew channel for now. So now just go ahead and select the right arrow or press plus on a Wiimote to go to the next page, and we're going to load into YOM ModMii Edition. From here, make sure that the selected source device is set to Wii SD card slot and press A. On this screen, hold down the plus button on your Wii remote until everything is selected, and then press A to install all of the WAD files. And just wait for it to do its thing. This will get you all of the hacked iOSs and the optional channels that you chose to include in your install directory. Once the installation process is finished, just go ahead and press any button to continue here. Now press the home menu on your Wiimote or controller to restart the Wii. And with that, our Wii is now in a fully modded state, and we can begin enjoying it to its fullest extent. So if you'd like to back up your discs, you can use the included clean rip install that it came with ModMii as part of its default package. But we're going to go ahead and get our SD card cleaned up, as well as install the Homebrew browser and get USB Loader GX set up so we can truly enjoy this system to its fullest. So I'm just going to power down the Wii, get the SD card taken out, and put it back in the PC, as well as my USB hard drive. So the first thing we're going to do is copy that NAND backup we did earlier to our computer, so that way it always stays safe. So just copy keys.bin, nan.bin, and copy them over to your computer, and then save them somewhere safe so you can restore your system if need be. Next, we're going to open back up the ModMii installer here. Type in I agree. And this time from the main menu, we're going to type in FC. Now on this menu, press D. Now on the next screen, type in FC once again. Y for yes. And the files will be cleaned up. So now, when you go into the copy to SD folder, you'll see that we don't have a bunch of unnecessary files. So go ahead and open up your SD card. Delete everything that's in there. And then copy over your new selection of folders. And done. Next, let's go ahead and install the Homebrew browser so you can directly download and install Wii Homebrew from the system itself. So inside ModMii still, we could type in 2 for download page 2. And so download page 2 gives us access to a number of things. So if you're interested in them, you can go ahead and download them. But the one I'm interested in most is Homebrew browser right here. But with the Homebrew browser selected, just click on download. And then type Y and enter to begin the download. But for the purposes of this guide, we're going to go ahead and close out of ModMii for the last time here. Under the ModMii folder, under copy to SD, you'll see that we now have a Homebrew browser app within our apps folder. So we're just going to go ahead and copy that over to our SD card. And again, this lets us install any selection of Homebrew from the Wii itself. So just going to go ahead and get this SD card ejected from the computer, put it back in the Wii for now, but let's again go ahead and get USB loader set up and ready for use. So we're going to start by getting games transferred onto the drive. So hooking the drive up to the PC, you'll see that we have our USB Loader GX app in here, and then a WBFS folder. This is where you're going to put your games. So games can be in two formats. They can be in ISO or WBFS format, but you need to have a folder name followed by the game ID, and inside that folder, the game needs to be named the gameid.iso or .wbfs. So it's kind of complicated, but thankfully, programs like the Wii Backup Manager make it nice and simple for us. So again, ModMii has given us access to the latest version of Wii Backup Manager by default, so you could just launch into this. So with the Wii Backup Manager, click on Drive 1, and then select your USB hard drive. So mine is F, so select whichever drive letter yours is. And now we can begin transferring games onto our hard drive using this, and it's really simple. So under the Files menu here, click on Add, and you can select Folder if you already have a nice folder ready to go of all your Wii games, which I do. So we're going to select this one. So you may notice that some game names look a little odd, and that's just depending on how you have your backup manager set up. So definitely recommend coming into the Settings menu here. So inside the Settings menu, go ahead and click on FAT32/NTFS. So you can decide if you want to have all your games stored in a single folder, or if you want to have them separated into subfolders. Naming style, title, game ID, title underscore game ID, title, game ID. So title/game ID is fine for me. And then you can select your split size for games that are over 4 gigs. So you can split at the 4 gig mark, 2 gig mark. Now click on Titles, and we can use titles from the game title database. That way our games don't have to look so weird. But go ahead and click on Use Game Title Database Titles for file and folder names. And then we can rename the WS files as well. But we're not going to change anything in the disk headers. No. But go ahead and click on Download Titles.txt. And once everything's set, just go ahead and press OK. And you'll see that now all of your games are actually labeled into something we can understand. But go ahead and select all of your games from the Select menu and press All, and transfer them to Drive 1. And then just wait for it to do its thing. Alright, when the transfer completes, you just have a nice, well laid out games folder for all of your Wii games. And inside the Wii Backup Manager under Drive F, you can see all of the games that you have listed in here as well. But if you'd like to download covers for all these, just go ahead and select all of them. Covers, sync and download all. And this is just for the Wii Backup Manager, so you can see what the games are and what the cover art looks like. So not the most important step, but there it is. But once all of your games are copied over, you can just go ahead and close out of the Wii Backup Manager. And another step that I like to do is head into ModMii. And under the program files, you can see the Wii Backup Manager folder right here. I like to copy this into the USB drive I use on the Wii, so that way I always have access to the Wii Backup Manager whenever I'm doing stuff on this drive, and I don't need to keep it on the PC. And this lets me use it on any number of PCs, because I might not be using the same one twice. On to GameCube games to use with Nintendont. We have the GameCube Backup Manager. So when you first start this one up, it's going to ask you to select your language. So just set it once finished. Then it's going to ask you to download the Wii title database. So just go ahead and press yes, and then close when finished. Now on the Files Destination tab, select your USB hard drive. It's going to say there's no games folder, create one now, so click on yes. But to add your games, click on the More Directories option under File Source. Select your directory, and they need to be in ISO or GCM format. Now, before we transfer these over to our drives, I again recommend heading into the Options menu of GameCube Backup Manager, Settings, and head over to Titles, and tell it to use trade name for game via Wii Title Database XML, and then press Apply. And then OK once finished. And then just click on Reload List, so that way the titles will be updated to the database and not look funky. But now under select All, and then you can install the games as one-to-one ISOs, or you can install them as scrub games to save on some space. For GameCube, definitely recommend installing them as one-to-one. And then just wait for it to do its thing. And once the transfer is complete, you can reload the list on your destination drive to see all of your games have indeed copied over. Or, just look inside the folder itself. But once you're finished copying over your games, you can just close out of the app, close out of your hard drive, and move it back over to your Wii. Now, if for whatever reason your Wii and GameCube games are in a format that's not supported, the Nkit processing app can help fix that for you. By using the Recover to ISO or Convert to ISO, you could drag in Wii and GameCube games to get them in an ISO format that will work with their selected tools. So essentially, you could drag in a folder like so, tell it to convert them to ISO, select an input and output path, click Process, wait for it to be done, and you should be able to use those games in these programs. Now, if in the ModMii setup process you chose to install USB Loader GX to your USB drive, I'd recommend going into the Apps folder, grab Nintendont, and just make an extra copy of it to your desktop. And then you can eject the SD card. Now hook up your USB hard drive, And now inside your apps folder, go ahead and add Nintendont back in on the USB drive. But anyway, back over to the Wii. Anyway, turning on our Wii, you can see that it has a nice little return to Wii menu splash screen instead of the health and safety thing. And that brings us right onto our Wii system menu. But you can see all the channels that you selected to install from ModMii. So again, we have access to the internet channel once again. And we've also installed a forwarder to USB Loader GX, and then we have the Homebrew channel here. But if desired, you can also move the disk channel off of the top left corner with that other Priiloader hack. But anyway, let's go ahead and load up into USB Loader GX. And so here we are inside USB Loader GX. It has picked up all of my games that I've copied over to the drive, both GameCube and Wii. All you need to do to start one is to press A on them. And if you have a GameCube with GameCube ports, you can put in your memory cards and controllers and have them play like normal. If you have a Wii that doesn't have those ports, you can configure it so it will work with your classic controllers, DualShocks, and all kinds of other things. Not really going to go into depth with all of that right now. But if you go into the global settings here under loader settings, recommend turning on the deflicker filter and the 480p pixel patch. If you have the proper model Wii, this will really result in a sharper image, but even still it helps a bit. If you scroll down, you'll see GameCube settings here. We could turn on a progressive patch to try to force everything into 480p, but we can also head down to the Nintendont section itself, turn on classic controller rumble features. You can skip the GameCube startup animation if desired, if you have that set in the folder. You can turn on memory card emulation. And if you have the GameCube controller port adapter for the Wii U, you can use that on non-backwards compatible Wii's to use actual GameCube controllers, so you can turn this one on. You can have the front port, you can have the disk drive LED shine every time it's reading your game. It's pretty fun to look at. Turn on broadband adapter emulation. So lots of options to work with here. But once you have everything set, you just go back. And let's load up 007 Nightfire here. But here we are playing 007 Nightfire, and I'm using the Wii Classic controller attached to the Wii mode. So as you can see, it does work. Have the game set to widescreen. And just very interesting experience to be able to play GameCube games in this way, but there we go. But anyway, Nintendo lets you use a ton of controllers, so again, if you have a Wii with GameCube controller ports, you can use real controllers. You just enable the option in the Nintendo settings. You can use the Wii U controller adapter for systems that don't have GameCube ports. Tons of USB controller options. So choices are really up to you on what you want to get set up. We're not going to cover that further in this guide because it's more of an initial setup type thing for the hack itself, not Nintendo. But at any point, you can exit out of Nintendo by pressing the home button on one of your controllers, and that'll bring you back into USB Loader GX. And then again, if you want to play any Wii games, same deal, just press A on them. And then start the game up. And so here we are playing Super Smash Bros. Brawl off that same hard drive attached to the back of the Wii. And again, you can go back to the menu just like always. Now, if you'd like to set it up so when you leave a Wii game from USB Loader GX, it reloads you back into USB Loader GX, go into Settings, Loader Settings, and then scroll down until you get to Return To, and this is set to off by default, so just press A on it. And you can set it to that USB loader forwarder channel that installed when you first modded your system. Now when you launch a Wii game, so now when you go back to the Wii menu, it will reload USB Loader GX instead. Now if you want to pretty up your USB GX install, You could download cover arts to your USB device. You can click on the image here and then select which ones you want to download. So for example, the disc artwork, 3D covers. So that's what I'm going to go with right here. And it will process which ones you're missing, connect to the internet, and begin downloading them. But once the downloading is completed, you can scroll through and see your covers. But if you'd rather display your games differently, you could go into a grid alignment like so, cover flow, or if you want to have them show up as channels, that is also available, which I think is kind of a nicer way to look at it. I'm kind of soft on this one just because it looks like the actual classic Wii menu. But you'll see you can just scroll through and see all your games. And GameCube games only get their banners that show up in the GameCube menu, but even still, it doesn't look too bad. But if you want to limit what games are actually displaying on your menu at any point, you can click on this little icon right here next to the ABC one. And if you only want Wii games to show up, you can hide GameCube games by unchecking the box. Or you can bring it back. And then you can even show NAND channels. So this will show you everything else on your system NAND. So pretty nice to have everything get consolidated. So all up to you what you prefer and what you want to look at. Another nice feature is you can actually go into a Homebrew launcher and it will show you everything that is currently on the USB drive. Now, one last thing I think y'all might be interested in is using Priiloader to auto-boot into either the Homebrew channel or USB Loader GX. So if you power off your Wii, now hold the reset button and turn the system on. And this will boot you back into Priiloader. If you head down to the settings page, under Autoboot, you can change this between the various options such as an installed file, disabled, Homebrew channel, or the BootMii iOS. So if you want to set this to the Homebrew channel, you just select Homebrew channel and save the settings. If you want this to be USB Loader GX, back out of the settings menu, head up to load install /install file, and then you can install any of the Homebrew apps that are on your SD card. So you will need to have a version of USB Loader GX on your SD card to select it to auto boot. And then in that previous menu, you just choose installed file and it will auto boot into it. But I can still avoid the system menu by coming in here and changing this over to the Homebrew channel. You can also set a system-specific return to, but I've already set that in USB Loader GX, so I'm not really too concerned about it. Now, if you are using a USB hard drive, you will want to enable the ignore standby option here, so that way the system will never be in standby mode. That way your system doesn't stay on in a standby mode and giving power to your USB drive, causing it to spin up, and it's just not good for the longevity of the drive. So turning this on is very helpful. But once finished, save settings, exit the menu, and just a demo, we're going to turn the system off. And there we go, booted right up into the Homebrew channel, straight from a cold reboot. And again, we could change between the internal SD card slot for our Homebrew apps and USB device just by pressing one on our Wii remote, pressing OK. So now if you'd like to install more Homebrew, the Homebrew browser that we put on our SD card earlier is a great way to do so. So just load it up, wait for it to initialize your network, and then you can begin browsing various Homebrew releases. So would really recommend hooking your Wii up with a USB Ethernet adapter to make all of this quicker. So I went ahead and skipped the download of the assets just to make this a bit quicker on myself, but using your Wiimote, you can navigate through all of the menus here, see different options for Homebrew games, emulators, utility apps, media, demos. But to install anything, you can just select it, click on the download button. But after that download completes and you return to the Homebrew channel, you will see your app added to your list of Homebrew apps, and you can just launch it like you would any other app. But we're going to go ahead and call it there for this video. There is so much more you could do to set up a hacked Wii to do additional things, but they require more in-depth steps that I feel deserve their own video, and I hope to cover them in the future, such as NANDs. But we'll see how time plays out and when these can be done. But thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope it helps you get your Wii hacked and set up to your heart's content, or is the stepping stone for doing so. But here at the end, the usual favors to ask. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit that like, dislike button, depending on how much you like today's guide, as well as the sub button and notification bell so you can see when new videos go live on the channel. Loads always coming your way, and I again love having you along for the ride. For anyone interested in further helping support the channel and keep it going, please be sure to check out that join button here on YouTube or the Patreon link in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, as any little bit helps keeps this place going. Thank you so much to all of our current champs. Amazing. Couldn't do it without you. But until next time, my wonderful internet peeps, you all stay awesome, keep on gaming, and we'll see you back next video.